Hello, my name's Nikita. I'm 29. I'm part of the DAISY PCOS leadership program at the University of Birmingham, and I'm also a trustee of Sisters. Honestly, the first time I went to the doctor for painful periods or anything associated, I was 15, and I was put on the birth control pill for about 8 years, which really masked a lot of the problems that I suffered with. When I came off the pill, that's when I started to notice that something wasn't quite right, and that was back in 2015. I was formally diagnosed in late 2018. So although I pushed and I got the help that I needed, when I look at my entire journey and my health from the age of 15, I would argue that I've had endometriosis and PCOS for a very long time. Pre-diagnosis, it's very difficult. Your way of life is changing completely, your body, everything. And you're going to the doctor and you're trying to get a diagnosis, and you're quite commonly ignored or not actually really listened to. So getting that diagnosis was personally very validating, because I finally had the language. I could describe what was happening to my body, and I found that when I was diagnosed, people were more receptive to me. They were more sympathetic of me, and it gave me something to fight. But my experiences in the medical system have not changed that much since getting my diagnosis. Quite frequently, I've heard the phrase, "Nikita, you sound like you have endometriosis," countless times when it's there. It's on my medical record. The mainstream narratives and representations of both PCOS and endometriosis seem to always be centered in being a cisgendered woman and generally in whiteness. So if you don't belong to either of those categories, you find yourself actually working again at a disadvantage. And when you're already societally working at that disadvantage, it's a lot to handle, it's a lot to take in, and there isn't a lot of organizations or supportive organizations that are intersectional in their approach, because that's my identity. I am intersectional. I don't just kind of have one set of privileges or oppressions. So it has been helpful, but it's also been quite disempowering. I feel like PCOS is labeled as a reproductive health condition, but it's actually something that affects the endocrine system, which is your hormonal system, and also the metabolic system of the body. It's an all-over condition. PCOS is so all-encompassing. It can affect your skin, so you can have cystic acne or oily skin. It can affect your hair, so you can have excessive body and facial hair, and as a South Asian person, that's something I already struggle with quite heavily. You're more inclined to anxiety and depression and to problems with emotional regulation, infertility, brain fog, chronic fatigue, dry eyes. The symptoms are really, really vast, and it's very dependent on who you are as a person, but we don't even know at this point what causes these conditions. We know they disproportionately affect certain types of people. For example, PCOS and endometriosis, you're more likely to be diagnosed with either condition if you're South Asian than if you're white. Even when I was battling to be seen in both of these conditions, that was never told to me, even though I'm someone that's more likely to develop them. So there's a real lack of general information about the conditions. It's quite frustrating to constantly be told, for example, that I'm more likely to have a condition, but at this point, I still don't know why. I don't believe that GPs are adequately prepared to deal with either PCOS and endometriosis, and I can only look at my own experience, which was the GP that was trying to help me get diagnosed told me very clearly, "I know something is wrong with you, but I don't know what it is." And a lot of us don't actually get diagnosed until we're in front of a gynecologist. And even then, I know people that have been to a specialist and have been told they don't have it, to later have another surgery and to have it confirmed. I think it's particularly important, I think it's extremely important that more research, funding and resources are put towards these two conditions. I have to wonder if this was a condition that affected just predominantly cisgendered men, if there would be a solution, or there would be research, or there'd at least be further understanding and sympathy. Cisgendered women are not the only people that suffer with endometriosis. So you're actively locking out an entire demographic and category of people because they don't fit what you think endometriosis is. And even up until a few years ago, endometriosis was labeled as a white woman's disease. And that narrative in society, that impacts people like myself. So for me, research is needed. It needs to be intersectional. It needs to be widened. And it needs to be led by those people, because I would ask very, very different questions than, for example, other people might ask, just based on my experiences.